Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's Your Impact Attack, and we're just holding on to it for you, but we'll do so for another week here. I'm the vet Jamie Williams as I pause for Ray's intro music that he's going to splice in. And with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, on time, punctual, and ready, with no computer issues whatsoever. It's Brandon.
Hi diddly ho.
All right. And I assume that Ray has put in the slow motion music and everything too. We like he just has so much fun doing these, producing these shows, and now he's gonna have yet another show to produce with the A Show, which we saw the little banner up here, and we could have left it on for you guys, but we thought it's better to stay on brand. But Ray is now going to be adding that to his list of things. Pretty soon, he's just going to be, bin Hameen with all the stuff that he's doing. But that's going to be good.
And I got
So
it.
let's.
And I've gotten I love this match for this show.
Oh yes. So that's nice. Even though it probably didn't have to do with anything Chris Sabin was into. But yeah. So what's going on, man? What's in the news? What's happening? Anything special, interesting?
So thank God there was no attack from Iran over in Crown Jewel this weekend.
Yeah.
That was
Come on.
a big thing people were talking about.
I talked about it a little bit on the Smack Attack and the Next Level Wrestling review because people were, that is the buzz that was going around, and I
There's even
just
a, there's even a fake press release going around that was not real.
right now who thought who made that and thought, dude, this is so funny. This press like I don't I people have so much time on their hands, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, come on, dude. What was, did anybody really think that anything was going to happen? Like, really?
I don't know. They're still pretty pissed about selling. What was that general's name that Trump killed?
I don't know anybody's name.
Yeah,
And,
they're still pretty. From my understanding, they're still pretty pissed about that one.
well, a lot of people are pissed about a lot of things, but they don't necessarily do uh, indefensible, international incident inciting type of things like that. It doesn't really happen. And I didn't think it would happen, and it didn't happen. That's the short version. I mean, we could go into a long version, but I'm not equipped to have a discussion, a debate, or anything like that about these kind of things when it comes to world events. But when you just look at the from a macro perspective of committing geopolitical suicide, the first thing that you want to do is is attack a wrestling show in some country, that's got a lot of celebrities there.
And
It's just,
civilians.
and civilians. It's just not, that's just not how people do it. Even if, I mean, if you had it, whether it's a terrorist attack, they probably wouldn't be big enough to launch something like that. And if it's a military operation, then they understand that the ramifications for doing something like that would put them on an island against the entire rest of the planet. And there's no way that anybody's willing to do that. That's why it doesn't happen. That's why there's been no nuclear war. That's why there's not going to be a nuclear war, because nobody wants that. There's no position to stand on after you've incited something to that degree. So it's more like a game of, it's just bluffing. And no, and when people call the bluff, that you can't, you have to show your hand and that you have nothing. That's what's going to happen. It just is. So
I seem I'm a little bit concerned though with the way that like alliances are starting to line up, like kind of like the setup for World War One. All it takes is one thing to happen, and then next thing you know, one person declares war on another person. Then the alliances start retreating, start kicking in. All of a sudden, everybody's declaring war on everybody else, and it's World War Three.
Maybe, but that the world was a different place 100 years ago, and information was not so easily disseminated or whatever. A lot of things didn't. A lot of things weren't clear to what was happening to the rest of the planet. And all you had was newspapers to tell you what was going on. It's just
True, you weren't getting like live coverage on the ground from people who were there recording on their phones.
right. So I mean, I don't know. And I wasn't alive during those times, so I don't know what it was like when that's all history to me. So when I look back and read about it, it's like, okay, we had all this supposed stuff that happened, but I'm not sure because I just wasn't, you know, I wasn't alive during that time to know what it was like to receive that information, whatever information you got and stuff like that. But I know what it's like now, and I know what would happen now, and
And
nobody wants it.
and also the old adage of history being written by the winners.
Right. Yeah, but just for the people that honestly really thought something was going to happen over the weekend at the crown jewel thing, that's like
I was honestly more concerned that another hostage situation with the Saudis is going to take place.
yeah, but even that was already like a close enough call, to can you imagine what would have happened if something had happened there? Like,
But can you still imagine all the balls on Vince McMahon to say "fuck you, pal" to the Saudis?
yes, yes, I can. I definitely can't imagine it. And I guess it kind of did happen, but I don't know, man. I don't know. But everybody made it home safe, which is important.
That yes, that
Um, and yeah, and now whatever's going to happen in that, between the governments of these areas and stuff, that's up to them. But I got to think that we're running out of time on whatever deal was signed to have a certain amount of shows for a certain period of time in that region. And I don't know if that deal is going to be re-upped whenever it's over, just to avoid headaches like this, to avoid the just the way the optics of when people are saying like, how could you take this money from this government, blood money?
I could see Triple H trying to go somewhere else to recoup that money.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
there's always going to be money from somewhere, right?
and he seems to be the kind of person of like he's not going to put his people in that kind of danger, whereas Vince would.
Right. Yeah. And so yeah, so we'll see. We'll see where everybody's bread is buttered, coming up. That's it's wrestling. Uh they're gonna do whatever they have to, but they don't look like they're in such a financially desperate situation that they need to do it.
Well,
Javi says it's a
a few
Javi
years
says it's
ago.
a,
Oh, sorry.
he says it's a 10-year deal, so I don't know how many years we're into it. It feels like around 4 or 5, right?
That sounds about right.
So,
About halfway in.
but yeah. What are you gonna say?
I completely forgot my point.
Okay. Well, any other, let's see, some other news that's been going around is the whole Nick Aldis thing. Have you seen any of that?
I have not. This is news to me. Let's hear it.
So apparently, Nick Aldis has been suspended by the NWA.
Oh, they're. I'm sorry. This whole thing smells like a work.
It does. And when we originally talked about Nick Aldis had made some comments and stuff in the past, and so apparently
Here's
some
why.
heat.
I'm sorry.
No, just go ahead.
Oh, here's why. The reason why I think it's a work is because Nick has always struck me as somebody who's way too professional to handle that kind of business in public.
Okay. Well, in this particular article that I'm seeing, PW Insider reached out to Joe Galley, who's I guess he's the COO of NWA, whatever that means when you're running out of a TV studio and nobody's watching it. But like, he's the COO, and he's also like the lead announcer, I believe. And and it says that Galley is stressing that the suspension wasn't a storyline. So if he is stressing that and it is a storyline, then he's absolutely lying. Which I don't know if that's the case or why you would need to do that. If I mean, obviously you may not admit like that something's a storyline, but the wording here says that he stressed that it's not, meaning he's trying to make sure to people that are asking questions, which normally when you see some of these people reach out for comment, they get no comment in return. And he's saying it's not a storyline. So I don't know. But I could definitely see with the way things this is playing out, like if you he was like, if you saw the NWA 74 show and you see Nick Aldis' spot on the card versus what's actually in the main event and those type of things, like if you're reading between the lines, you can see it does not look like it's great, but that could feed into some possible storyline. But then again, we've seen this where you had people that were there from day one and part of the founding group of a company, and then all of a sudden they just show up in WWE. So,
or AEW.
Or AEW. Well, I'm specifically talking about AEW because Cody was a huge part of that company even existing, and then he's just done with it, and we didn't think we'd see that, but we did. And then there's a follow-up thing about what is this? He's Nick Aldis is saying that he already gave his notice, and so now he's suspended. So it's one of those things like, you can't fire me, I'll fire you, or like those kind of things. I quit. You can't fire me. I quit. And
you can't fire me. I'm already fired. Fire me. I'm already fired.
Woo. Yeah. So
that was a great promo.
Sure was. A lot of great stuff. A lot of great underrated stuff from Ric Flair and WCW.
Even during the dying days, he's cutting fantastic promos.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just looking at this, and it's, they every time you look at one of these articles, they put in a bunch of bullshit like Nick Aldis has won this many NWA championships. I'm trying to read through this, like, I don't care,
because they know they don't have enough for a source. They got to pad it with stats.
Right. So anyway, his statement says something like, "Fans in New Orleans, Louisiana, sorry to disappoint, but I was removed from the shows this weekend after giving my notice. I fully intended to fulfill my obligations to the audience, but unfortunately the company doesn't seem to share the same values." So there's that. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they think they're doing, whether it's supposedly a work or not. There's just, what is the interesting payoff for this? Okay, so it's a work, and then what? Then he comes back and has a match. If you wanted Nick Aldis to have matches and have people care, you'd be doing that. But for some reason you're not, and you're treating him a certain way. And now he's like, to the point where he's like, "Yeah, I quit." And they're like, "No, you're suspended." Like, and then what? And then what? What would be the follow-up thing if this was a work? What do they do then? It's all coming back to, look, all these guys can only do one thing at the end of the day. They're wrestlers, and they can have a wrestling match. That's it. There is no bigger picture for them. There's no, whatever it is, that's all it's going to be. Whatever creative things you can think of, that's essentially what it ends up as. The WWE gets a hold of Logan Paul. What do? Match. It's like, what? There's that's it. That's all they can do. So what would even be the benefit of saying that this guy is suspended or whatever? if it's just going to come back and turn into a wrestling match. There's obviously something going on, and they're just trying to handle it whatever way they think is best. People thought that the CM Punk thing was a work. I mean, I think people want to say things are a work just so they don't feel like a sucker for believing something, and they could say they called it. You know, like, I knew it was a work the whole time. I'm not saying that about you, Brandon, but I'm just saying, like, the stuff that we've seen in the past, you know, with these other people, and even people, you know, that would come in the chat and say things like that. Like, it's a work. I think it's a work. Well, why? You know, what would be the benefit? You know, the whole idea of putting a work on is that somehow you can turn this into bigger business. And when you have opportunities to turn it into business, like with the CM Punk and the Elite thing, which, you know, that could have turned into business, but instead it turned into absolutely nothing. Or something like this, where it's like, there's really no point in doing this at all, because there's nothing behind the suspension other than whatever's between Nick Aldis and Billy Corgan. So yeah, even if that's just a wrestling storyline, that's not interesting.
And we're missing a huge chunk of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're not doing this stuff on the air. So I don't know, man, but I think there's probably something to it, and they're trying to work how they deal with the information that other people get. But I'm sure that Nick Aldis isn't happy, and why would he be? If you saw that NWA card, I wouldn't be happy. If you've seen the amount of people that they draw, not only to their shows, but just to watch on YouTube. If you go to any of their shows on YouTube and look at their views, like, does this sound like a prestigious wrestling company? And I say that as someone who enjoyed the NWA product. I'm not saying that the product's not good, but I'm saying the truth is people ain't watching it. So I don't know if it's just that that's not what people really want, or if it's just that people don't really know it exists or are interested to that level. So, but either way, it's not a good situation for them. So even if you could turn on NWA at any time and all their stuff's on YouTube, so it doesn't really cost you anything, you want to watch it, I guess you're just not doing it out there. So I don't know, man. But if I was Nick Aldis, I'd be like, I can do better than this. Especially if this is part of, like, this is something that you've been on with the ground floor with this particular promoter, and you've been trying to build it up, and you've been doing everything you can, and you don't feel like you're getting that, you're getting any sort of return on that investment in any way, or if your contributions are not being appreciated, or whatever the case may be. It could be a case where Billy Corgan is looking at, like, his lack of growth as a company and saying maybe that's because we were behind Nick Aldis this whole time and he hasn't gotten us anywhere. So he's going in a different direction to see if that's any better. And Nick Aldis doesn't like that. Now, there's ways to do that, but unfortunately, it just doesn't look like anybody's happy right now. So I don't know, man, but I don't envy anybody in that position. I don't want to be a promoter.
It could be one of those situations. There really is no bad guys, there's no good guys, just two different conflicting sides.
Yep. So, yep. I don't know, man, but it's not a great situation. Speaking of not a great situation, that's just a great transition into talking about this episode of Impact here. Not a great episode. Not a bad episode. Just, well, there's some bad things on it. I guess we should get to it. So let's start talking about it. This is from November 3rd, I want to say.
That is correct.
All right, keep your shirt on. Yes. Oh, speaking of that, speaking of the Billy Madison references, like, there was something that happened on Monday Night Raw that was just, I swear, I was just like, does Brian Gewirtz still work there?
I think it was they did the Chippendales thing with the Alpha Academy.
No, it wasn't even that. That's obvious. But there was another thing where they took a line straight out of like Happy Gilmore or something, and it's like, if you would watch Raw back in those days when Brian Gewirtz was a head writer, you would hear Adam Sandler movie quotes in those promos and stuff all the time. Like I remember John Cena one time came out and in one of his promos he said, "I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul," or whatever, whatever shit he said. It's just like, I don't know, man. They think we don't know these things. They think we don't know these references. It was probably something they probably had Chad Gable say something, because that's usually who it was, and that's who they had do the Chippendale skit. So, but anyway, enough about that.
The only thing missing was him coming down to the ring carrying a rum and coke.
Yeah, that's
Fucking
it.
Patrick Swayze.
He has some of the sexiest moves I've ever seen. Yeah. So like we're starting off bad. At least if you're me, because we have Fat Eddie, the cinematic promo with music underneath in the desert. Apparently, we're gonna have a buried alive match. They're not gonna call it that because because Eddie is a filthy animal. Fat Eddie's a filthy animal, and yeah, so we're getting a buried alive match, except we're just not calling it that because legal reasons we can't. But that's what he sounds like it's gonna be. So I'm just like right off the bat, just like, whew, okay, it's gonna be one of those. So what are you thinking when you see this?
Oh boy. Yep.
That's it. Okay, yeah, I feel that sentiment is very. I guess so. They as the usual, they like to get right into a match with in this case, it's going to be Kenny King, complete with cape.
This is the second cold open they've done too.
Yeah.
Second in a row.
Yeah. Kenny King with a cape. What'd you think of the cape? You like it? Is it King?
I like it. I like it. It makes him stand out more.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more of that.
Mm-hmm. We sure do. Then we have Mike Bailey. No cape. So it's King versus Bailey. This is part of the X Division, tournament, which again, option C, we have a vacated X Division championship. And they show us a clip from BTI of PJ Black defeating Yuya Uemura. So PJ Black has moved on in this tournament. Not enough to be. You would think that if you're bringing a guy in, you would maybe have him on the main show if we haven't seen him. Try to get people some interest or something. I don't know. I should probably stop saying things because what do I know really?
You're making too much sense, Vet.
Yeah, it's just not. I don't know.
Like,
I don't think they like that.
I would have had this match on the BTI.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. Or you could have it somewhere else on the show. I mean, what's really that much better?
Yeah, there was plenty of time you could have trimmed off of some of those matches to give to that match.
Right. There really was almost the show was really mostly like one match, the main event, and there was another match in there. One match was just like it's just to advance a story or whatever, get some shit over. The Fat Eddie thing, like I'm looking at this and I'm just like, there really wasn't that much on there. But so PJ Black, for those that don't know, what was his fucking WWE name? Gabriel something?
Justin Gabriel.
Justin Gabriel. I don't know about this kid. Like I say he's a kid, he's like 40 or whatever, but like he's not. There's something. How can I diplomatically say this? He's missing something. He just like he's a second generation wrestler supposedly. I don't know who his dad was. And every time I watch him, I'm just like, should be better than this. But anyway, I didn't get to see this match because it's on BTI and I ain't watching that. Sorry. But I'm sure if I had watched it, I would have said the same thing. So it's not that I want to watch a PJ Black match, but I just think that if you're going to have him in here and they're talking about him like, like he's new. You don't really want to showcase him on the main show. Fine, all right. This match though, with King and Bailey, it was fine for an opening match. You know, it's not necessarily the car crash type match that you would expect from an X Division title match.
I noticed that with Kenny King's matches, he tends to do a much more slower, more methodical pace to his matches.
Right, he's slowing it down. He's taking his time. He's being a worker, you know, not just rushing through everything. Even though that's something that it's just something that Bailey has to learn. But I don't know.
He seems to be picking it up though. The more he works with guys like King,
Right, but I don't know how would he be in the role of I'm gonna slow it down. Like, can he do it? Will he do it? What would be the right character thing? Because if his name is Speedball, it would make sense that he's not going to be slow and methodical. However, you know, maybe he might have to be at a certain point.
maybe more fight from underneath, quick offense before getting shut down and going back to heat.
Right. And it's okay to not do. It's okay to be fast. That doesn't mean that you have to do everything at you know, at a breakneck pace. You know, is if the things that you do are fast because they're fast. Like if he throws fast kicks, right? But that doesn't mean that he never has to sell anything or he never has to, you know, take his time setting up offense. It just could be that the stuff that he does is so quick that people can't react to it. There's a difference between that and whatever.
There you go. That's why you're the vet.
Yeah. Anyway, he wins with something. I don't know. I don't know. Some kind of pin.
It was a quick roll up out of nowhere, which I thought was cool. We need to see more of those just out of nowhere wins. I like seeing that every once in a while.
Yeah. Roll ups are devastating, especially if you do one that's not just a schoolboy. So if we're looking at the remaining bracket for this tournament, we have coming up, we have PJ Black versus Black Taurus. There's a lot of black right there in one match. And then we get on the other side, it's Bailey versus Trey Miguel. So that's going to be a lot of guys running around and doing spots in one match.
That's going to be a car crash.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we have to look forward to. One of those four men will be your X Division champion. Now that the field is a little more narrow, what do you think? What do you foresee them going with? Is Bailey going to recapture it, or is it going to be like Trey Miguel? I don't really see PJ Black and Taurus being the ones that actually win it.
I could see them possibly turning Taurus and Crazy Steve heel since they're kind of split off from the Death Dolls, or they haven't been together recently or at all in the last several months.
Well, that would be a stupid move if they did that, though, because Taurus is kind of a fan favorite at this point. Very impressive to the people, and they like him. Plus, he has a cool mask, so that would be a mistake in my opinion. But do you think he could actually take the whole thing if they did turn him heel? That'd be the inciting incident, and then have a heel champion Taurus.
It has been a while since we've seen like a heel champion in the X Division. I think the last one was Ace Austin.
Yeah. That wasn't that long ago. That's just a couple months ago.
Or was it? Oh, Slammiversary. Yeah, about 6 months ago. 5 months. Yes, 5 months ago.
Yeah, so well, anyway, we'll see, but that's who you've got to choose from at this point. Then we see the Motor City Machine Guns backstage. They're advising Josh on Aussie Open, and also that Bully Ray can't be trusted. That's everybody's advice, but apparently the Chris Sabin shares that sentiment.
But at least he actually has a personal history with Bully that he can draw from.
Yeah. So I was as it occurred to me as I'm watching this, everybody's coming up to Josh Alexander and saying they can't trust Bully Ray, right? That's the story that we're telling. My question is, from a story perspective and from like just looking at it analytically as a story, um, does Josh Alexander need to trust Bully Ray for anything? I mean,
Not
we're not
really.
seeing them put in any positions where, he's got to count on Bully to be there for him. He's doing everything but that. He's teaming with teaming with another future opponent in Frankie Kazarian on this episode, and he doesn't really interact with Bully in any way on these things. Bully's got his own little crisis going on where he's crying because nobody likes him, and then it's like, okay, so even if you can't trust Bully, why does he need to trust Bully right now? All that they're gonna do is have a match at a pay-per-view in next month or something. It's You don't need to trust somebody for that. It doesn't matter. Like even if you expect them to cheat in the match, I mean, you know, I'm sure Josh Alexander would always expect that as a champion, that anybody would want to take his championship by any means necessary, no matter what their history was.
I mean, he's got done with Moose and that whole thing with him screwing with his own family.
Exactly. So what is Bully Ray gonna do? At this point, that's so. Just the entire premise. Now that I really take a look at it and see how they've been building it, the whole premise doesn't make sense. Who gives a shit if you could trust him? Why am I invested in this if it doesn't matter ultimately? It's just something to think about.
Now that makes a lot of sense. Like, what does Josh have to worry about with Bully? He's just another challenger for him.
Right. Yeah. So like if we were doing stuff more backstage with them, or Bully trying to buddy up to Josh and everybody telling him not to, hey, don't trust him, but he keeps saying, oh, let me be your tag team partner, let me be in your corner. If he was doing that, okay, but he's not.
Or if he was in the Kaz role right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's just trust what? I don't know. Anyway. But that's kind of Impact, right? They do stuff. They have an idea. It would be a good idea if a bunch of other things were different about the idea. Like that's they just don't get some of these details right. But I mean, I don't know.
Disconnects and misfires.
We'll keep trying. We'll keep trying, Brandon. We'll try to get them back on track. I don't know if they're going to listen though.
They're trying though. At least they're trying to do something.
Yeah. I wish they'd try harder. So Vex and Giselle break up with each other here. And I guess I didn't think about it. And they may have said it, and I just wasn't paying attention. And you couldn't blame me, because I usually am not paying super, super close attention to the commentary on these shows. A lot of times I'm multitasking. Like once I see that it's a match that I'm going to be like, ugh. Then I'll kind of watch the match, but I might be listening to something else, right? So I may not hear the commentary totally. So they may have said this, but I didn't even consider the fact that six woman tag last week counted towards Mickie James' retirement. Like if one of the other two,
that actually was part of the angle. Like there was like before they even went into that 6-woman tag, they had a backstage vignette with Vex and Shaw saying like, "Hey, we need to get on the same page so we can actually get rid of Mickie tonight."
Right. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I remember them saying that, but I was just like, but does that count? Like, I didn't really think about what they were saying. I thought that was just generic heel talk. Like, let's get rid of Mickie,
Yeah, they were actually like saying, like, they were throughout the match stuff, they were saying, like, if Mickie gets pinned or she loses, this counts as a loss and she's done.
Right. Which, that would be stupid. I wouldn't even agree to that even if I was on a retirement tour.
That was incredibly stupid.
Especially if like Taylor Wilde got pinned, I have to retire. Fuck that, So, and even if that did happen, and Mickie was like, "Well, I got to retire," and then someone talk her out of it and be like, "No, you don't have to retire. That wasn't you. You didn't lose." Like, it's still like, I don't know. I thought we were talking about singles matches only.
Same here.
But apparently we weren't. So yeah, what'd you think of this, like, just hasty kind of nothing breakup with Vexed and Giselle Shaw? I mean,
at least they referenced the fact that all of relationships that Shaw's been in have ended badly, and that they even blamed her for splitting up the influence or them being gone.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad anytime a wrestling partnership dissolves and it's not because somebody hit somebody from behind and then everybody acts all shocked and like the person's a jerk or whatever. Like, I'm so tired of that. Like, fine, we're done with you. Fine. Okay, fine, fine, fine. And then just leave. Like, that's how it
And
should
that's
be.
fine.
Yeah, fine, fine. So yeah, I think we need more Cartman breakups and less pro wrestling attack the partner breakups. It's just, it's it's like another Matt and Trey thing, like the whole the Orgasmo thing. Like, I don't think I'm gonna do hamster style anymore. That's nice. Like that should be the breakups of these tag teams and stuff. So it should be like, hey man, I don't think we should be partners anymore. Okay, well, good luck. That's how baby faces should break up. There shouldn't always be like a heel turn on somebody, turn on your best friend and road partner and stuff after all this time just because they accidentally bumped you on the apron a couple times. Like,
Yeah, well, why not? Like an amicable split. Those do happen in the real world.
they certainly do. So, well, here's a team that hasn't split yet, and that's Tasha Steelz and Savannah Evans. And they're gonna come out, and Tasha's gonna call somebody out on behalf of Savannah Evans. Like, who wants to fight Savannah Evans? Like, that's just basically what she's saying here. And Jessica answers. So this is the first time we've seen these ladies in a while. Seems like they've been off a week or two.
Probably since Bound for Glory.
Right? Yeah. We don't need to see
You
we
don't
don't
need
need
to
to
see
see
the
the
tag
tag team champions. Yeah, we don't need to see. That's just annoying. Uh, so yeah, and then my note here is a match. I guess I was just writing that to say that a match happened. Match here, match goes here. Insert match here. I don't know.
What we need is more. We need the vignettes and the pre-tapes with the Death Dolls. That's what gets them over. It's their character and their interaction with each other.
Yep. Labrat says they must be watching this show. They mentioned the Vegas buffet on commentary during Jessica's entrance. Well. Yeah, I know they're watching it. I just don't know who. I don't know who of them is watching it. I don't know if it's Jimmy Jacobs or whoever. But it could be Savannah Evans. Who knows? Savannah Evans could be watching because I've given specific advice in the past that Savannah Evans just coincidentally randomly followed. So I don't know, like, can't say for sure. Not going to take credit for it, but just putting it out there.
If Savannah Evans is listening, here's another piece of advice. The move that you're going home with, make sure it's the most devastating thing you hit on your opponent.
Yeah, I have a note about that. Just real quick on the match. I don't know if you had much to talk about other than that, but there's just some shenanigans because everybody's out there. And Rosemary spears Tasha Steelz at one point, so everybody can pop. And then Savannah Evans, who apparently is called the Cannibal now, which I don't know why. I haven't seen her eat anybody yet, but
if you're gonna go the thing you're selling her as this dangerous thing, go the whole Hannibal Lecter route. Bring her out in the straitjacket and the mask, and then let her loose on the opponent, destroy her. Then when she's done, put her back in it and wheel her to the back. Make her look dangerous.
Yeah, it's a little late for that. Like,
True.
she's been around for so long. Like, oh, you just now turned into a crazy killer? Oh shit. But
now,
yeah,
that could work if we had an inciting incident that led to it. But we don't have that.
If we don't have it. But she wins with the full Nelson Slam, which is, it's one of the 3 moves that people have when they don't have a finisher. It's like when you see somebody using a full Nelson Slam, you're like, fuck, you don't have a finisher. And the other 2 moves, just for those who aren't familiar with my work in the past, are the crossroads or roll of the dice type move, and whatever variation of the flatliner. Whether if you use one of those 3 moves as a finish, it's trash. Sorry, Jay White, love you. Blade Runner's trash. So is the Sister Abigail. So is and then the crossroads, or it used to be called the roll of the dice when Reno did it in WCW, which if you use one of those, sorry, find something else, please. Canada Spaceman just putting random shit in the chat like he always does. It just wouldn't be a HMG show without Canada Spaceman putting the most random stuff that has nothing to do with anything at all. It's just whatever he sees, he'll copy and paste it in the chat. If it could be an article, it could be just a random movie or TV show. And Liz has joined us, so that's the dominating schoolboy. Lab Rat points out. How about the dominating schoolboy? Well, that's a move that you can use in place of a finisher. But when you have what makes me bring this point up about these three specific moves is that they would do this in the WWE. They would give a new debuting guy one of these moves, and they would expect that to be like some kind of they would expect the people to really pop on it. Like, oh my God, he did a full Nelson slam. And look at the people that use those moves. Jinder Mahal, like what? This is not, this is not the best future for people that do that. Now, Cody Rhodes kind of does his own thing, but I don't know. It's just not. It's not. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Because now that I think about it, Cody Rhodes is in a pretty good spot. Bray Wyatt's in a pretty good spot, despite himself. Maybe the key is using one of these moves. And Jinder Mahal is a WWE champion. You know what? Don't listen to me. Everybody use these three moves as much as you can, and you'll be a champion one day too. And nobody did mention that Mia Yim showed up on Raw tonight. But we knew that was coming. Either that or AEW, just because her husband's there. But maybe her husband will come back to WWE one of these days. We'll see. But yeah. So we're going back to oh yeah, so just to you want to put a bow on that Savannah Evans match or anything else that happened in it?
Nah, just angle advancement or just give the heels a win going into their match, or the challengers a win.
Right. And yeah. And Savannah, if you have a better move than a full Nelson slam, please. But wait, no, don't listen to me. Keep doing the full Nelson slam. You'll be the Knockouts Tag Team Champions. We get a flashback to Lockdown 2013. Now, I know Jeff Hardy has a history of getting hammered, but this is ridiculous. All right, I don't have anything else on that. That's my terrible pun.
Did he happen to be hanging out at a rich home in San Francisco?
Apparently. Well, it looked like a TNA cage, but I mean, it could have been. Yeah, so yeah, this is just footage of Jeff Hardy getting hit with a hammer by Bully Ray. Another instance of Bully Ray not being able to be trusted. Looking like he's going to fight the Aces and Eights back to back with Jeff Hardy until Devon takes 15 seconds to pull a hammer out of his pants. And no, it's not that hammer, an actual hammer. And then he tosses it to Bully, and Bully hits Jeff, and everybody's shocked, Hulk Hogan included. Hulk Hogan can't believe it. He's just like, no. So great acting by Hulk Hogan, the best acting we've seen since Suburban Commando.
He always had a great oversell.
Yeah. So yeah. Javi chiming in with Jeff Jarrett's a stroke is also generic and a trash finish, which is it's kind of true.
It's basically just a reverse Russian leg sweep.
Yeah, but the Miz took it and WWE champion. So
damn, the main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah,
and The Rock got involved in his match.
Yep. Yep. So don't listen to me, guys. Killer Kelly harasses some ladies backstage sexually. I would call this sexual harassment. Would you?
I think so.
Yeah. At least the normally weird Impact lighting was covered up by Killer Kelly's lighting that follows her everywhere she goes. Like anywhere she goes, there's red light. So you can't see the stuff that's just propped up against the wall or whatever. There was a little bit less of that on this show, I think, than normal. There's still a little bit of it, but it's Awareness Month is over, so we don't care about breast cancer anymore. Nothing's gonna be pink. Um,
Come
so
on, that's funny. That's funny.
Canada Spaceman is booking Peacemaker versus 50% Black Adam at Mania. Well, why not? Why not? I mean, we know who would win that in a shoot if comic books were a shoot. Fat Eddie's in the desert waiting still. And then we get a Burt Macklin promo with music underneath, where he talks about everybody jumping the line. And so he's tired of that. And he's beat everybody, apparently. And he makes a good case for himself why he should be the next, number one contender.
I mean, at least it was a logical promo that tied everything together and explained his character's motivation and made sense.
Yep, with music underneath. That's why I always mention when they don't have it. But this isn't a Gia interview, so it makes sense. So yeah. Yeah, actually that's not true. Peacemaker and Black Adam are both DC, so it could happen. The major players are discussing Heath and how much he sucks and how they used to beat him in WWE all the time and they can't believe they still have to keep doing it. And then they said they shouldn't even have to say his name. And when you say the phrase "say your name," you don't even have to say the actual guy's name. Yeah, it's like, not even the name, not even Joe Hendry. Just say the name. Here, say your name, say my name. Any variation on that, and Joe Hendry is going to take it. He comes out and he's looking at the Digital Media Championship there, and he's saying, he's relating Brian Myers to an absentee father.
And in other news, Destiny's Child is going to be reunited on the next episode of Impact.
Woo! So yeah, what'd you think of this? Joe Hendry appears coming out of a fridge or something, apparently.
I don't know what his teleportation powers are to be able to pop up in lockers, freezers. Apparently, say the name is a magic phrase.
Apparently so. So
I'm still waiting for him to be a surprise member of Decay.
With those powers, you would think they would want to recruit him at the very least, and they could help Black Taurus become the X Division champion. You imagine that group? Crazy Steve, Black Taurus, Joe Hendry. There's a lot of comedic gold mining in him trying to be like a motivational speaker or something to them, but
it would be very similar to the whole like Death Dolls dynamic too.
Yeah, but then it would just turn into bad Raw skits, and we have enough of that on Raw and this show. So I don't know. I've spoken it out there. If it happens, don't blame me. Just call it a coincidence. All right, now Fat Eddie's in the desert with music. PCO arrives. It's all cinematic. We get Eddie versus PCO in a cinematic. If you could call this a match, if you could even know what this is, this is just. I'm gonna have a segment from now on where. Not a segment really, but like a gimmick on these shows. Or not, maybe not this show, but certainly on the Next Level Wrestling Review, where anytime some shit like this happens, I'm going to have a muffin on hand and I'm just going to start eating it so that people will get the reference. Like I'm old and I'm hurt and I'm fucking tired and I work with fucking children. Like I'm going to have a muffin just so when I eat the muffin, it'll be shorthand for that whole thing, like being CM Punk and hating everything. I don't have a muffin right now, but I would definitely be chomping down on it if I did because of this. This is fucking terrible.
They couldn't manage a target.
Couldn't manage the target. Suplex on a rock. Choke slam on a rock. Same rock.
Same rock.
Yeah. There's Trade taking bumps on a rock. There's a flat angled rock that they would say, oh, we could bump on that. I'm sure that's what the discussion was in the pre-production walkthrough. Eddie pulls a shovel out of thin air. He's like, 1 minute he's getting beaten up, and then the next minute he has a shovel. Like, he just has the shovel. He's standing in the same spot where we just saw there was no shovel, so we don't know where he could have produced the shovel from. Maybe Joe Hendry, maybe Decay. I don't know. Somehow a shovel appears in his hands, and he's already hitting PCO with it, and then he, starts burying PCO literally with the shovel, and then they cut to Lab Rat says Eddie just heard all this muffin talk. Yeah, he got mad. He got mad and got magical shovel powers, and then he's burying PCO, well, literally and figuratively here. And then you see him shoveling like small piles of dirt slightly off screen on what looks like PCO's tricep or something. And then when they cut back to see PCO, he's buried under a pile of rocks. And the rocks are way bigger than what you would use a shovel to put on somebody. So, we're just the absolute drizzling shits on every conceivable level. The editing was bad. The storyboarding was bad. You have a cinematic match, and you're still throwing working punches that look like shit that we could see, instead of doing like a movie punch where it looks like you hit him, but you miss by like 5 feet. Like, instead of doing that type of choreography, we're just doing shitty pro wrestling in the desert on a rock. Like, you couldn't even get a cactus to somebody to take a bump on. I mean, come on. Like, seriously.
The question we all want to know is, was this better or worse than Ric Flair getting buried in the desert?
Worse. 100% worse.
I agree.
Yeah. And I barely remember that. I just know it couldn't have been worse than this. So, yeah. No surprise. That, something involving a PCO and Eddie Edwards would be the worst thing that we'd see, if not, well, certainly this episode, probably this week, maybe this month. It's a contender for, if they're voting on of the year, this could be of the year. This could be worst segment of the year. And that's saying something. Because I don't know if you've seen the stuff Bray Wyatt's been doing since he's been back.
Oof.
But it's really fucking bad. So that means that this is in a class of its own. Anyway, anything else to add to this travesty?
Nope. Other than this is bad.
It's just so bad. So we got Taylor Wilde and Mickie James. And essentially what this little conversation boils down to is it's another case of a babyface turning down help for no reason. No real reason.
We just saw this exact same angle play out with Mickie and Chelsea Green.
Yeah. I'm getting really tired of the proud babyface turning down help gimmick. And even if you're taking Mickie James and making a consistent thing for her, as though this is her, Mickie James's last ride. This is my last ride. I want to do things on my own. I want to, show that I can still do it or whatever. Like, okay, that makes sense, but you keep going up against people that are going to try to cheat, So if she knew that, like, let's say like Scott D'Amore couldn't, as an Impact, manager, couldn't say, hey, if Mickie James is having a singles match, everybody else is banned from ringside because we want this to be straight up, Like, you couldn't say something like that.
I'm actually watching the old Impacts from like '09, and they had a thing, they were doing a thing where the story was they gave the refs more power, and they were just like, all right, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone.
Right. The power that, they always have? Refs that always have the power to eject people. They just don't do it because it's not convenient. You know, it's just typical old wrestling bullshit. But it's not really old wrestling bullshit. It's more like WWE bullshit, like stuff that they've gotten away with and that they've done for 40 years. And that's what people think wrestling is. But wrestling used to be different before that, and they've gotten away from it. So, you know, the referees are supposed to have authority. You know, they're supposed to have all that stuff. You give the refs more power. What the hell are you talking about? They should have never not had it. So
I like the idea of having former wrestlers be refs to kind of give that physical imposing, that physical threat behind the authority.
yeah, that would be something. But you know, what we're gonna get is the same old shit. It's the same old shit. You know what's gonna happen. You know that that Deanna is gonna try to cheat to help Chelsea because she's out there, and you know that Taylor Wilde is gonna run down there, and you know it's gonna like almost cost Mickie James the match, but it won't because Mickie James has to have a match with Taylor Wilde because they already challenged each other. So there's no way they're not gonna have a match now. We already know this shit's gonna set in stone basically. So we know she's not gonna lose to Chelsea no matter what happens, but it is going to cause friction with her because she's going to be like, I told you not to come down here or all this other shit. You know what I mean? Like, you can see this coming a mile away, 10 miles away. It's so terrible. Just, you don't trust Mickie James or Chelsea Green or any of these four people. I guess I wouldn't trust Taylor Wilde with anything, but you wouldn't trust any of these other three people to just have to be able to carry out a good segment just on their own merits and talents. Like, you have to add this cliched story bullshit to every fucking thing. Does anybody care? Is anybody watching Impact at all? Who fucking cares? Do something different, please. I'm begging you. I need a muffin. But Mickie James like, yep. Yeah, I don't need your help, Taylor. Sorry, fuck off. That's basically what she said. And speaking of fuck off, here comes Eric Young versus Sami Callihan. And I heard a story recently. Because I don't know if some of you guys may check out, Cafe de Renee with Renee Dupree sometimes, either in podcast form or on YouTube. And so, like, he had Rip Rogers on there. And it was actually a really great episode. Rip was on fire. He's usually good for entertainment when he just cusses out everybody. But this is him actually being engaging, carrying off the interview, like almost leading the interview, because let's face it, no offense, Rene Dupree, not the most charismatic individual you've ever heard. Not in any aspect of his life, but certainly not on his own podcast where he just sits in the room, probably on his bed, like Disco Inferno, and just he can't be bothered. But he's just I used to think Rene Dupree was an asshole. Now I just think he's just so extremely laid back that people could maybe think that that's inconsiderate. But I think he's just that laid back and that much of a cool guy. But anyway, he was telling a story, Renee was, about being on a thing with Sami Callihan, and Sami Callihan saying, like, he's only 5'8" or whatever, and he needs to do something different or whatever. And Renee started to tell him about Gorgeous George and how Gorgeous George was only around 5'8" and all this stuff. And he said Sami Callihan was looking at him like he had steaming turds hanging out of his mouth because he had no idea who Gorgeous George was or any of the things like that he was talking about. And imagine liking wrestling to the point, well, I can imagine it when I look at Sami Callihan's career, but I mean, just imagine that you are a big enough fan of wrestling to the point that you feel like you need to be a part of it, but you also don't need to fucking know anything about it or what happened before or who came before you or shit like that. It just looked like he saw Mick Foley falling off shit and putting shit in his body and being like, I can do that. Like the opposite of what you should think. How do you not know who Gorgeous... I just said it, and then I looked at Liz's comment. How do you not know who Gorgeous George is? Literally we had the same exact thought. I don't get it. Look, I haven't watched every Gorgeous George match ever in a career. I don't know if I've even watched one from start to finish, but I know who he is, I know what he's done, and I've learned about him. And that was before I ever thought I was going to be part of wrestling. I just, as a fan, you're supposed to know certain things. So that explains a lot about Sami Callihan. Lara says history doesn't exist in wrestling. You just have to like a Foxy match. It's true. That's true. Hey, don't Foxy's my girl. Don't bad out Foxy. Who was that? That was what's her name from that tag team, the Funkadactyls? Not Naomi, but Cameron.
Cameron, yeah.
I forget her real name. Yeah. You gotta know the history just so you could go back and steal from it. You know, like that. If no other reason, that's why you gotta watch old shit, because it's so old that no one will remember it, and then you take it and you seem like a genius. But the people that know what you're doing are like, a man of culture. I see. You know, like that. That's how it works.
You'll impress the people who don't know and get the respect of those who do.
Yeah. So anyway, this wasn't really a match. It was just kind of like them fighting around for a little bit because there was a gimmick that was going to happen, and that was that the Designed are going to surround the ring, and then two of them are going to reveal themselves to be Alan Angels and Big Con. Did they call him Big Con or just Con?
I think it was Big Con.
Should be Big Con. Because, that's another great wrestling staple throughout history. Just put big in front of somebody's name. Yeah, Buckshot Kid. Even if you've never seen Gorgeous George tape, it doesn't mean you never heard of him. Well, it meant that for Sami Callihan. So, well, he's heard of him now, I guess, since Rene Dupree told him. Since he brought up the name. I guess he heard of him technically. You can say you heard of him now. I wonder if he actually did go back and look up Gorgeous George after that conversation. I mean, he didn't learn anything from it if he did, but I wonder if he actually just to see what he was talking about.
I certainly hope so.
But yeah. So, all right. Alan Angel's a Big Con. They're guys in yellow sweatshirts. Whoop-de-doo? I don't know. Don't really care. But, and speaking of who cares, like, they gig Sami Callihan right here. It's like that's supposed to be some kind of a horrific act to this guy that probably has, he probably has worse cuts from shaving than this little trickle of blood down his forehead. Like, he does this all the time. This means nothing. If you did this to Mickey James, this would be a horrible, awful, shocking event. If Sami Callihan bleeds a little from the forehead, that's just Thursday night. It's not even an event here. Like, what are you talking about? So, yeah, we do not care if Sami Callihan bleeds.
What they need to do with Eric is make him be so, like, have him really unleash, like, something violent and brutal to the point where even, like, the Sami Callihan character is, like, scared.
What can he do other than killing a person?
That's where they gotta get creative.
Well, look who you're asking to get creative. The person that just had Mickey James say, "Hey, I need to do this on my own." Like, this is, yeah, let's get creative. There's nothing violent enough. That's why this whole gimmick doesn't exist. Or, like, it doesn't make sense. It exists, it just doesn't make sense. He needs to steal catering. Well, that would only make him a heel to mostly Eddie Edwards, really. I don't know. Hey, remember Jay Vidal?
I do. I was glad to see him back because I thought he had some talent.
Yeah. See, okay, now here's a perfect example. This is Candace Spaceman in a nutshell. Here's his latest comment. The cleaning lady is a whip-smart Cambodian doctor, comes to the U.S. for a medical treatment to save her son, but Big Ray's Dominican neighbors made her sell them drugs. Okay. All right. Very funny. So Jay is decorating Jordan Grace's room with the 8x10 that Giselle was handing out earlier of herself with the Knockouts title or whatever. It's so it looks very much like Masha, you know, putting the "I'm gonna kill you" posters in there, but now it's just pictures of Giselle everywhere. Um, that's another thing that we're not getting on this show, Masha Slamovich. Now that she got beat, no idea what to do with her, so let's just take her off TV and let everybody forget about her until she can come back at a later time. Either that or her run is finished. Maybe she's doing an appearance, like by appearance bookings, like. But, but yeah. So anyway, yes. What do you think of this interior decoration and Jay Vidal getting tossed on a couch?
I mean, can we do something other than repeating the same angles?
No, you cannot. Any other questions?
No.
Okay. We can't even avoid repeating the same angles concurrently. Like we can have two going on at the same time rather than, you know. Candace Baseman says, imagine if I was drunk or on drugs. This is me just on coffee and no sugar after 2 months. I know. That's why you're Candace Baseman. All right, now we get finally something good on the show, kind of.
This was the match I loved.
Yes.
I love this match.
I love this match. It's Moose versus Ace. Yeah, so for one thing, anytime that we get a full Moose entrance with a match is going to be good and entertaining.
You see that when they zoomed out, that one dude down in the corner in the blue just getting it to Moose's theme?
Yep. A lot of people were. There was one guy that was filming it with his phone, but that didn't stop him from doing the Moose thing with his other hand. Like, people want to like Moose, even though he's a scumbag.
He's so good at that, at being a heel. He's so good at it.
Yep. And yet, then we have another guy that's technically supposed to be a heel, I guess, but they really are struggling to identify the Bullet Club in any significant way.
Yeah, it's like the Bullet Club are basically whatever they need him to be that week.
Right. And it doesn't always work like that. Here, well, what do you talk about the match a little bit and tell me what you liked about it, or loved about it, because I don't have like a lot of notes on it.
It seemed like it was a really well-structured match to where the offense that Ace got in, it looked like it made sense, and then he didn't get it in too long before Moose cut him back off and went back to heat. I thought Ace did a really great job working as a babyface from underneath, just, fighting up, getting cut back down. I thought he showed great fire. I really think Ace could be a great, underdog babyface, and he showed that in this match.
I agree with you to a point, but what I would push back on is, didn't it feel like Moose got beat up a little bit in this match?
I saw that too. I thought Moose gave him a little too much.
Yeah, just, not only giving him offense, but the way he's just punching Moose out in the corner.
Maybe a few shots, cut him off, go back to heat.
Yeah. I prefer the story of, and it totally works because you have a clear weight division. Ace Austin, if not clearly defined by, Impact Wrestling, certainly the fact that he competed in the Best of Super Juniors in Japan recently this year will show that he's in an entirely other weight class than Moose. So when you tell the story of all the guys got to do is sell for Moose and then hit some big stuff when it's time, or get a flurry of offense when it's time, then yeah. But I do feel that he got a little too much in this for what the story is, especially if, my God. Bully comes out with his little stupid trophy.
This match didn't need to be any more than 7 minutes. No reason to go to a commercial.
He comes out with a little stupid trophy, okay, and doesn't do anything with it. He's just out there holding it like a fucking asshole. And Moose gets rolled up. The finish is a roll up. We've already had a roll up type finish on this show, but that's not going to stop them. They're going to do this again. They're going to beat Moose with this. I don't know how this helps Moose. I certainly don't even know how it helps Ace in this situation, because you shouldn't be beating up a guy and then just rolling him up. I mean, God, you pushed Mooser all over the ring and just kicked him around. You know, you might as well just hit the fold on him and just pin him like a bitch. There's really no, why do you need to roll him up? Bully came out with the trophy, but the trophy didn't get used. So why does he have it? Why would you carry this with you anywhere? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't even really taunt with it that much. He just held it. It's just corny shit that they do. Like when somebody, like, they did the same thing with Tony Storm on Rampage. Like, hey, I'm going to come out and fight you guys. I'm going to hold my belt, though. I'm going to hold my belt on the way down. Bring that out with me. You know, just shit like that. Like, they do this in wrestling all the time. Like, just in case you forget this person's a champion. Don't worry, we forgot. We don't need the belt to remind us that there's too many champions either. So, she comes down and beats up everybody in Britt Baker's crew. Same thing here. Bully comes down. He's got this little trophy, but he doesn't do anything with it. And Moose just loses straight up. It wasn't even like a distraction. Like, I'm going to look for Bully. He went to... Like, he left Ace Austin selling and then still had time to go back to him. He didn't, like, turn around into a move. He didn't, like, he missed a spear and got rolled up. That's essentially what he got. So he had the full time to do the full charge and the full spear. And Ace Austin just moves and rolls him up. Terrible. He should have kicked out of that and just fucking beat him. That's what should have happened. You know? Because what's the problem? If you want to have a match between Bully Ray and Moose in the meantime, before Bully Ray gets to cash in for his title shot,
why are you beating the guy he's going to wrestle?
Yeah. Obviously, Ace Austin could beat Moose. I sure don't think that Moose can beat Bully now. I don't think Moose could beat anybody, really. I can't remember the last time Moose won a match, so, you know, let's just continue to grind this guy into a fine powder until he's absolutely worthless. Like, are they planning to ship his contract to some other company, or they just want to make sure that he has no momentum whatsoever or anything? You can't do it because Moose is too good for this to matter, but still, you shouldn't do it. It just makes no sense. Yeah, but, so, we got a prime suspect for banning here. If you'd like to take care of that. But yeah, I would ban whoever booked this match, and 100% would have had Moose still go over in this to keep some heat going with this whole, you know, I'm a scumbag deal. That's just how I would have done it. But for what they did, they executed it well enough, other than, you know, just concept. But I mean, physically, they had an entertaining match.
Yeah, why not do the finish of him going for the Moose, or Moose goes for the spear, misses, roll up, kick out, spear 1, 2, 3. He goes to beat down Ace Austin some more. Bay jumps in, Moose beats him down, then Bully runs out.
Yeah, why not? If there's not going to do a distraction finish and you're not going to use your little stupid trophy, then why not just run out at the very end after to make a save? And then you got... And then you got, oh, wait a minute. Can we trust Bully? He just saved my ass. He just saved us. Right. We got enough people burying Bully on the show. Now we could maybe, you know, have a little bit in the other direction to keep the guessing game going. But again, don't listen to me. All right? Have your shitty finishers and be a champion. Giselle, during the announced desk rundown, like where they run down the cards for stuff coming up, and Giselle comes and hands her 8x10 to Tom and Matthew, so there's a little bit of that.
Here's the only thing that's missing from this. Like, I like the idea that they're doing this gimmick where she's obsessed with the title. Okay, why? What is her motivation for it?
Oh, well, just being a champion is motivation enough, I would think.
True, but when you start getting to know the individual characters, they start having a little bit of different motivation. Some people want the belt because they want to be the best wrestler. Some people want the belt because they want the main event spotlight. Some people want the belt because of the paychecks that it comes with.
Yes, all those things. And that it's a nice accessory for her outfits.
That too.
All right, so main event time. Um, Aussie Open versus Josh Alexander and Frankie Kazarian. Now, I should mention, because I don't really think that the announcers did, or if they did, I missed it. They certainly didn't make a big deal of it, and we didn't see any physical evidence of it. But over the past, I want to say it was like October 28th or whatever, 29th, one of those days, New Japan held an event in New York City, like Rumble on 44th Street or some shit like that, in which the Motor City Machine Guns challenged Aussie Open. Aussie Open had the New Japan Strong Openweight Tag Team Championships, right? And the Motor City Machine Guns won those. So they beat Aussie Open, which they did mention in their promo earlier, but they beat them for belts. And we don't see these belts on Impact TV, just like we didn't see the NWA Championship when Matt Cardona had it, or, whatever. We saw the Impact Women's Knockout title at the Royal Rumble in the WWE, but Impact doesn't want to have anybody else's belts on their fucking show. Interesting. Maybe that's to do with like taping schedules and shit. They probably taped this before they won the belts. So maybe that's why they don't have it. But that's not the case for like the Cardona thing in the past. He had definitely had the belt during their taping schedules, and they just chose not to use it.
Think there might still be some residual heat from like the old TNA NWA relationship.
I don't care about that heat. That's not a good enough excuse. Everybody would benefit from him bringing that belt on that show. So, should have done it. But I don't think anybody would still be involved. Like, I think the NWA is completely different management now in its current form.
And same with Impact.
Right. Nobody's there from that, so there shouldn't be any.
D'Amore, I think D'Amore was still there. Was it there at the time? But he wasn't in management. He was like a producer agent.
Yeah. Even if that, maybe manager only. I don't remember if he had any extra duties back at that time other than carrying a Canadian flag. But either way, they should have something there. But anyway, that's just for the fans' edification that I'm bringing up the fact that the Machine Guns are holding New Japan belts right now, and they got them from Aussie Open. So, this match, oh boy, if I had a muffin right now, because I hated this. I hated almost every second of it. It pains me to watch these type of things. Now, before I say anything else, and before you say what you're about to say, I want to say that the four guys involved, I don't really have anything against them. They were like busting their ass to try to put on a physical, entertaining match. So like in that aspect, they succeeded. I think the people were pretty much into it. I feel like that part of it, like I'm not going to take anything away from what they actually physically performed and the exertion that went into it. So I'll give them props for working really hard. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
What was I going to say? Yeah, it just felt like it was like, I felt like they blew an opportunity to have friction and heat between champion and challenger heading into their title match, especially with the one spot in there where they both had their submissions on, and one of the guys, like I think it was, shoved Alexander on top of Kaz, and they could have played that into the finish with Aussie Open getting the win, and then Kaz blaming Alexander for that, saying you didn't want me to get the glory of winning the match, so you broke up the pin or broke up the submission. Just something.
Yeah, they have no problem with cliches anywhere else in the show, so they somehow don't use it here when it would make the most sense out of all the opportunities that they have to use wrestling cliches. They don't do it here. I don't know if Aussie Open, if I've ever seen them win a match. I haven't seen them win a match in New Japan. I haven't seen them win a match in AEW. I haven't seen them win a match in Impact. I have not seen these guys ever win. I know they had championships. I didn't watch them win those. So maybe I'm a curse. Maybe everything I watch, they just lose. But, if you want to use these guys, at some point, they have to seem like they're worth a fuck. Otherwise, It doesn't matter if you bring in this team and talk about stuff that they did in fucking small Australian promotions and over in Rev Pro and shit like that, because nobody's watching that either. Nobody watching this is watching that. Or maybe they are, but even so, like, if you have watched them do other things, then you have a certain amount of expectations. So when you see them get beat here, you're just like, okay, well, I can see what this company thinks of these guys. They're importing jobbers, is basically what you're doing here. You're paying a lot of people's, whatever. But that's beside the point. For me, well, the first thing I had written down here is the finish should have been a DQ, actually, above anything else. And the DQ could have come at any time after the first 5 minutes, and the DQ would have been, you didn't get out of the ring fast enough, so you're disqualified, because these guys just stayed in the ring for like the length of Gone with the fucking Wind. Like, there was why didn't you just say it was tornado tag rules if that's what you wanted to do? In fact, Brandon, I could see in the next few years, it could be as soon as 5 years. It could be even sooner. We don't even have tag team matches anymore. If you want 4 guys to be in a match, you just say that they're on teams, and then they just have singles matches in the ring at the same time. No rules, no countouts, no tags, just 4 guys, fighting on teams. That's it. No tagging anymore. They'll just call it a team match. That's it. They won't even have tags. Because why? Because what does a tag mean anymore? You don't use them, So, like, what's the fucking point? You just want to do whatever the fuck you want to do? Like because you don't know how to work? Because you don't know how the art form is done? I don't have the patience for this kind of shit anymore. I really don't. I watch this match. Like, normally, when you show me a match like this on the card, I'm like, what else is on? I'm gonna watch a YouTube video at the same time over on the side, like multitask. But I said, no, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and watch this match with my whole face. And I regret it. I don't regret it in the sense that I could come to you and tell you that there's a reason why, when you hear me say things like, I didn't really pay attention to this, or I had this off to the side, or whatever, that you don't feel like you're getting cheated, because even with my half-assed attention paying, I can still give you a greater analysis of the match and what happened in it than anybody else could. And when I pay attention to the thing 100%, it doesn't really change what you guys get in terms of analysis from me. So just know that your cup of coffee's worth of channel attitude every month that you spend because of me is you're getting every cent worth, whether I pay attention to the match or not. But there's a few things, though, that I just don't like, and they happen in this match. Just for an example, I don't like the spot where a guy is being held by the arm, and he's reaching for a tag, and then he turns around and punches the guy, and the guy holds on, and then he reaches for the tag again, and then he punches the guy again, and then the guy keeps holding on to his arm. I don't like that spot. That spot's terrible. It doesn't look like... If you have... If you can just haul off and hit a guy at any point, what do you care about? Yeah, well, what do you care about tagging? You're obviously in enough control that you can just punch the shit out of this guy, and he's not going to protect himself because he's using 2 hands to hold your one hand. So why don't you just keep hitting him in the face until, he passes out, and then pin him? Because you're fucking super strong, right? Like, you don't even need a tag team partner. Why are you reaching? Just kick his ass. What's your problem? Like, are these guys really that fucking dumb? How dumb can somebody be? Like, they think this is a cool looking spot. Oh my God. So that's one. They did that. Kyle Fletcher, which is the taller, younger kid in Aussie Open. I saw, and this is a sidebar, another thing he did that's very specific that I don't think anybody else would necessarily pick up on, but I saw him do this spot where they go to shoot him off, and he holds on, he hooks the rope with his arm, And he's like, no, 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 no. And then they go to shoot him off again, and he keeps holding on. He's like, no, 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 no. Like, I was like, I've seen this before. You know who does this spot? Robbie Eagles. Robbie Eagles, another Australian wrestler, another who's wrestled for New Japan and held New Japan gold, does this annoying spot where he said, no, 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 every time he holds onto the ropes and somebody tries to shoot him off. It's so specific that I'm like, okay, so what? Because you're both Australian, you get to hold the rope and say, no, 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 no. So I looked it up. And yeah, they were trained by the same people, Robbie Eagles and this guy. So I don't know if that's part of the class training. It's like, now guys, if someone wants to shoot you off, you hook the ropes and say, no, 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 no. And they have drills. Some kids are just like, no, no, no. Sorry, get out of the ring. No, this is how you do it. You got to say, no, 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 no. Like, you're not saying it right, you know? So go do some squats in the corner until you can get it right. Like, anyway, that's just a little sidebar thing.
Burpees till you puke and then get back in the ring.
Yeah, there's the bucket. Yeah, but anyway, another thing that Kyle Fletcher did is, and you see this, how many times have you seen this one, Brandon, when you're in the tag match, when someone goes over to the ropes and they're supposed to get shot off and they go like this? They just hold their hand out to get, here, take my hand. Take my hand and shoot me off, please.
We'd actually, like, when we did that, when we do like rope drills and whip drills, we'd actually, like, if somebody held their hand up, you smack it away.
Right. Something. And then make them do squats in the corner till they puke. That's what I should have had. It's fucking terrible. Frankie Kazarian makes 2 comebacks. I don't know how he got both the hot tags in this match. I don't know how you get 2 heats in this match and Frankie Kazarian makes both comebacks. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And then, like, the cherry on top of this shit Sunday, the Josh Alexander and I think it was Kyle Fletcher again did the suplex out of the ring spot.
Oh, geez.
You know which one I'm talking about, right? Yep. Where you're both inside the ring and you go to, like, suplex the guy over, and instead of him taking the bump over the ring, he holds on and
fulcrums over, and you both, like, flip over the top.
Yes.
Yeah, like, so much can go wrong with that. So much can go wrong.
Josh Alexander has no one to blame but himself. I mean, he would, even if this, whether this is his idea or not, he agreed to it, and he had neck surgery. I don't think Kyle Fletcher's young enough or old enough to have even broke his neck yet. And I hope it doesn't happen. But if this is something that he wanted to do, he should even just have the respect of, like, yeah, we don't need to do this on a random Impact show that's not even a leading up to anything. You know, I'm not going to jeopardize a guy who's already had career jeopardizing injuries just to do one cool spot on the thing. Now, you know, I also don't believe you should wrestle scared, you know, because I think you'll get hurt if you do that. Yep. But it's not about wrestling scared. It's about realizing your place on the card and the significance of the match that you're in and what you don't need to do and what won't make a difference. You know, they pulled off this move about as well as you could pull off this move. No one cares. If Josh Alexander had broken his neck again doing it, no one still would have cared because they wouldn't have seen it, but they would have probably heard that a guy broke his neck in Impact. And that would have been the story coming out of it. And it wouldn't have been worth it. You know? Now you got to, you know, upset your entire company's plans because this guy was your sitting champion. So I just am not a fan of that. If you want to tell me that Frankie Kazarian and him want to do this spot on on their little pay-per-view thing to, you know, for their title match, all right, that a little more sense. I'm not a fan of the spot, but if you guys are confident in being able to do it, okay, maybe that's the place to do it, more so than here. But, you know. And above all else, just the established tag team was defeated by a slapdash couple of future opponents. So that was your point earlier,
And when
and
you
it's
had and when you
still
had the
relevant.
yep, and when you had the opportunity to get the actual established team over and create heat and tension between champion and challenger.
Hmm. And let's face it, Impact's tag team division is not in any kind of great shape. So it certainly wouldn't hurt to have Aussie Open be there as another major player, pun intended. So, um, not that I particularly am saying, "Hey, I want to see more Aussie Open matches," but despite what everybody may think listening to this, I know it's not all about me and what I want. If Impact thinks highly enough of them to bring them in and use them, then obviously they see something in them and they want to get something out of them. But if you want to get something out of them, you should try treating them like somebody, so that if you do beat them, it does mean something. Right now, as it stands, this win meant nothing for even Kazarian and Josh. So you didn't even get anything out of what you accomplished. It's just,
It hurt Aussie Open more than it helped Alexander and Kaz.
yeah. And I don't know if you could hurt them any worse. Really, like I said, I've never seen them win. And remember, I'm me. Most people aren't watching all the matches I'm watching. So if I haven't seen these guys win, you probably haven't seen them ever. you know, like, and the only time that you're gonna see them though is when they're taking an L. I don't know. I don't know, man. So yeah, um, that's basically all I have to say about this week's episode. Do you want to add anything else and wrap this up in a nice little package?
I think Elizabeth wrapped it up very perfectly with that comment.
Yes, she says this is one of those matches where I'm like, why? Why indeed, Liz? Why indeed? But it's nice to have Liz back with us after her traveling week. She had a lot of fun times visiting her friends and families and all the stuffs. And we're glad that all of you guys are with us. And we hope that you will continue to stay with us as we continue to eat proverbial muffins as we talk about Impact. I think I'm going to definitely have to have a muffin at the ready for all future episodes. Not only because I'm old, I'm tired, I'm fucking hurt, and I work with fucking children. Not you, Brandon. Because Colin's not here anymore, so I guess that part doesn't make sense. But, well, Big Ray's a large child, too, so I guess that makes sense. But also because, I just wake up and do the show and I haven't had anything to eat, so I'll be hungry and a muffin will probably hit the spot. And they do amazing things with muffins these days, cranberry orange, pistachio, like they got all kinds of great muffins. You ever have a pistachio muffin?
I have not. I'm more of a blueberry guy.
Blueberry's a classic. The pistachios are like this nuclear looking green color. Just exquisite.
I might have to try that. I've always been a fan of pistachios.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good shit. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. So tell the people where they can find you, Brandon, for whatever they may need from you.
You can always find me at all the places at Miss Tia the Transarchist, as well as Twitch. And yeah, and always every Monday night right here on the Impact Attack.
That's right. And as for me, you can find me at Opinion Haver everywhere, including such aforementioned shows as the Next Level Wrestling Review. Or if you checked out the Smack Attack the past couple weeks, you may have seen me sit in with the fellas, and I was eating snacks there. They were cheesecake squares. They weren't muffins, but I was enjoying myself. Because I hadn't watched 1 second of Crown Jewel, and I mentioned that I think the counter got up to 6 times on the show. But I listened to them and their commentary, and we had a good time and a nice, fun discussion. So check that out if you want to see more of me interacting with the other great hosts here at Hameen Media Group. We all have a great time. And check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers, of course. Ben Hameen, some of you may have seen the clips. If you saw on Twitter, you saw that clip where Ben got to put over Rip right to his face about how important he is to wrestling these days. And that was awesome, because as he was saying it, I was like, I couldn't say it better myself, but I was there in the chat with the guys, and so that was a fun episode. But check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers with Von Lila Studios. Check them out on YouTube. They're great. And of course, check me out on Twitch. Now, I was really thinking, based on past history, that I was going to get off of here and in less than an hour, I'd be playing God of War Ragnarok for everybody. However, it turns out I'm a day behind, because unlike every other video game release ever in history, this one does not come out on a Tuesday on the dot. It comes out on Tuesday nights later.
Ooh.
So, like, it's in 24 hours from now that you will see me playing God of War. So we got to wait 24 more hours. But when we do, that will be at 9 p.m. Pacific time, midnight Eastern time. God of War Ragnarok will stream on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/opinionhaver. So please be there. I will be doing a crazy marathon. It'll be to the point where I don't know when I'm going to have the chance to watch NXT before I do the Next Level Wrestling review. So I'm going to have to shut myself off just in time to watch NXT at some point. We'll see how we go. But yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry I misunderstood the time, because like I said, I'm going on every history of past video game releases that come out Monday nights. It's technically Tuesday at midnight, but because I'm on the West Coast, I get that 3-hour thing, right? So I was thinking, like, that's what they were going to do this year. And when I look at the release date on the game page, it says November 8th. So I'm like, yeah, that lines up. No, it's November 8th at night. So yes, hope to see you there. We're counting down. We got a little more than 24 hours to go. Once again, I hope to see you there. But that's going to do it for us here on Impact Attack, Hameen Media Group, Channel Attitude. For Brandon, I have been the vet Jamie Williams, and I don't have a sign-off line.